Hi everyone, Bethany here with Caterpillar, and I'm back for a Friday, but we're not quite doing a sew along. We're preparing for the ultimate sew along that we're going to start next week. If you didn't know, next week I'm going to be kicking off Tuesday with our part one of our sew along for the Pretty Petals Table Runner by Lori Holt with Be in My Bonnet fabric line from Riley Blake Designs. This is a special bundle that kit that we partnered with Riley Blake on. We only have so many. We just have a tiny few left, and there's still time to get it. Now, you might not get it right when we start the sew along next Tuesday because, shipping time. However, it is all recorded and will live on our YouTube. So you can still watch and take notes and ask questions. And then once your kit comes, you can go back and rewatch it and catch up. But we really want you to hang out with us. We only have a couple of these left, and they're a wonderful price. You get everything you need to sew along with us to make this gorgeous table runner. And you can get more information on our website, caterpillar.com. I'll put a link to it in the description. But this is a beautiful project. I cannot wait to sew it along with you guys. But before we sew and start going through this fun project together, we really need to prepare our machines. And if you didn't know, Sunday is National Sewing Machine Day. And I love sewing machines. I love them so much. I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head how many I have. But there are a few that I reach for on a regular basis. And you all have seen me sew with my Singer Heavy Duty quite a few times here on a Friday sew along or whatever day of the week we're hanging out. And so I thought today would be a good time in honor of National Sewing Machine Day this weekend to show our sewing machines a little love. And I'm a big stickler on taking care of your machines. Okay. I have worked for some big industry machine companies before. I know a lot of information from some of the top technicians in the industry, and I'm going to share some of those tips with you all today. But at the end of the day, your manual is your friend. I know. Manuals are like boring. I get it. I don't like them either. But when it comes to maintaining your machine and what is recommended for your specific machine, I highly recommend that you take some time to flip through that section. Okay. You can skip some of the other stuff, but flip through that section. They probably have information on their website as well. And I will say newer machines are a little easier to maintain versus some older machines. And you might not agree with me on that, but I'm going to explain myself as we go through this video. I'm also going to give you some tips on how frequently you should be having your machine serviced, how frequently you should be sewing, changing your sewing needle, all those kind of things. So if you want to clean your machine, whether you're sewing along with me next week for the sew along or not, just show your machine some love and let's do it together right now. So let's go sit at our machine. We're going to walk through this together. I guarantee you have most of what I'm going to use today, but I have some tools that you probably haven't thought of using before. And one of them that might blow your mind. And there's a little pun intended right there. You'll get it, I promise. And I'll put some links to some of these special tools that I have that I use every time I clean any of my sewing machines, whether it's my Singer Heavy Duty, my really big FOF embroidery machine, or one of my sergers, or even my industrial machine. Okay, you ready to dive in? All right. Now, I'm just going to preface this by saying, if you couldn't tell already, this is a pre-recorded video that I had to do because I am out of town today. So I'm here with you in spirit. We're going to do this together. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to leave them in the chat and I'll check them later when I return. Or I can answer them next week when we dive into the sewing tutorial. Okay, so sewing machines. We love them. We use them, but we need to care for them. One thing I use as an analogy all the time is just like buying a car. Your car needs its tires rotated, it needs an oil change, sometimes a belt needs some love. I mean, or even just a car wash from time to time. And I'm the worst at that, but you got to take care of your cars. It's a huge investment. It's a investment that is supposed to take you from point A to point B and be reliable. Well, we want the same kind of results from our sewing machines, but they too have motors. They too have belts. They too need some cleaning and love. And sometimes we have to take our cars in to get serviced and have routine checkups. And I would say that sewing machines are very similar. So I'm just trying to get you to think about it in that light. There is a motor inside of here. There is a belt that goes around this side over here where that hand wheel rotates. There's a belt there. So if you have a much older machine, or if your machine has not been stored properly, either in really hot or really cold temperatures, you could have some dry rot in your belt, and that might need attention. So there are definitely some things that do need regular maintenance and service from a certified professional technician. If you have a local shop in your area, they'll usually be able to do that for you. Or you might have someone like I do who kind of travels and does house calls, which I love. So what I'm going to do today is just kind of go over some of the things that I think as a regular home sewer, things that you can do on a regular basis to keep the life of your machine going really strong and having good results. But that does not surpass the fact that it still needs regular maintenance. My recommendation, if you sew often, is at least once a year to take it in and just have it cleaned out. I will say, as someone who cleans her machines regularly, and I mean regularly, it still amazes me what my service technician will pull out of my machine. I have a top of the line serger and cover stitch machine that has never left my house once I brought it home. And I clean it out all the time because I use it all the time to sew knits and fleeces and fuzzy stuff. And I clean it all the time. And then my service technician cleaned out the back end of my serger that sat in the same spot all this time. And there were leaves that came out of it, along with other lint and fuzz and threads and all sorts of stuff. And I was just like, but how? And there's no way of knowing how. But at the end of the day, I share that story to say that even someone like myself who cleans their machines regularly still needs to have their machines deep cleaned and checked and oiled properly by a service technician. Now, I said the word oil, and some of you may prefer to oil your own machines. And this is where I said I may kind of differ on some things, and that's okay. Again, what I'm sharing with you is what I've been taught by professionals, but if you know what works best for your machine, you do what you think is best, and also check with your manual. So some machines do need regular oiling, like my industrial machine over here, and I'm comfortable with doing that. But some of my machines don't really require that, and that's where I meant some of the newer machines don't really require that as frequently. And so unless your service technician shows you exactly where to do it, maybe how often you should do it for your specific machine, it's not something that you should really have to do. And that's something that if you are taking it in to get serviced on a regular basis, at least once a year or once every year and a half at the most, then they should be oiling that and doing all of that. And then you wouldn't really need to again until the next service appointment. Now, when it comes to sergers, sometimes there's a few spots where you might want to, but again, ask your service technician. And it also depends on the frequency and use and the storage. I always recommend keeping it in a safe space. If you're not keeping it out where you're working with it on a regular basis, let's say you have to tuck it away when you're not using it, then that would be a time where I wouldn't put it in the attic. I wouldn't put it in a cold basement. I would make sure it's in a dry, safe space and preferably covered, or in its original box if you can, to keep it nice and safe in between uses. That way it's not getting dust and lint sitting on it. It's not in a moisture rich area or a super cold or hot area. Like a closet is perfectly fine inside your home, not in the basement or not like in a attic or anything like that. So anyways, with that being said, I am going to walk you through cleaning out my Singer Heavy Duty. I don't know how messy it is. I feel like I cleaned it not too long ago, but I was sewing a kind of a decent sized project recently, and I'm kind of ready to reset my machine. So this came at a good time. Now, the first thing I'm going to point out is that my machine is not on. It is turned off. And I think that's very important to make sure that we are being safe, that our machine is turned off. But because it's off, I don't have that light there. So I am going to be utilizing my flex light from Caterpillar to give me better lighting of this space because I won't have the light on. And I'm just going to walk you through what I do. It literally just takes me a couple of minutes to do. And I hope it helps you feel more comfortable about taking care of your machine. It's not rocket science, but there are some best practices, and we're going to share that today. So let me switch my camera. All right, so I've got it zoomed in on my singer. I literally just finished sewing a project. So the first thing I'm going to do is drop my foot and remove that. You can see that my foot gets a little fuzzy and dirty, and I do like to give it a good wipe down. I do recommend using a microfiber cloth or something along those lines that's going to get that lint off and keep it nice and clean. And we're going to be using this microfiber towel quite a bit. It doesn't leave stuff behind, and it picks up all that little bit, and it's really helpful. So that looks probably the cleanest it's looked in a long time. So I'm going to set that aside. Now, the next thing I want to do is remove my thread. Now, one thing I like to point out is when you go to remove your thread from your machine, there's a right way and a wrong way, and we've all done it the wrong way, myself included. Sometimes we're just in a hurry. But the right way to remove your thread is to snip the thread at the top, then take the spool off and remove the thread by pulling it from where it was attached to the needle. That way it's feeding through your machine like it was intended to. Removing it backwards by just grabbing the spool and removing it backwards can cause damage in your machine in that path that the thread is fed through. And we don't want to mess up anything like tension discs or anything like that. We also don't want it to get jammed and stuck and not be able to get it out. And that can happen very easily. So I remove my thread by removing it from the needle and pulling it as if it was being fed the right direction. So best practices, just a little tip. Do I always follow that? No, I'm human. Sometimes I get in a hurry. But 9 times out of 10, I would say I follow that rule. All right, the next thing I want to do, and I'm going to switch back over to this camera, is remove my bobbin and take that out. And I'm also going to set this aside. This is my little, my bobbin is on a top load. Yours may be a front load, and that's fine, or a side load. I'm just going to wipe everything down as I take it off. The next thing I'm going to do is remove my needle. Now, did you know that you were supposed to change your needle? Some people say every 6 to 8 hours. Some people say every 8 to 10 hours. I would say anywhere between 6 to 10 hours, you need to remove your needle. Now, this one is a titanium needle, and honestly, I probably could use it a little longer. I haven't used it for that long, but it's every 6 to 10 sewing hours, and that can be a little hard to keep track of. But if you've done a really big project, change your needle. Change your needle. This is a titanium needle, so I'm probably going to set it aside and put it back in when I'm done. But whenever I do take the time to clean my machine, and I clean my machine probably every 1 to 2 projects, depending on the material I'm sewing with. I will clean my machine every 1 to 2 projects, and I will change the needle every time I go to clean it. But I literally just put this one in. So now that I've got that off and I've got this plate off, I want to remove this metal plate. I want as much visibility inside this area because this is the area we're going to clean. And before I do that, I'm going to come up in here with this microfiber. I don't know if you've ever looked up in here, but it gets dusty. This post, the needle bar, all of that gets really dusty. So just give it a good wipe down. I like to get in there and get it really clean. And I will say these little microfiber towels do like to catch on things, but they do just wipe everything down so clean. Like that just looks so much better. And not all of that may pick up on camera, but some of it should. All right, so now I'm going to take my little smaller screwdriver and just remove these 2 little screws here. They should come loose pretty easily. All right, so I'm going to give you a little tip. If you've got one of these little like magnetic pin catchers, this is what you want to use this for. Put your screws on that, because I couldn't tell you how many times I have gotten done cleaning my machine and I'm like, where is my screw? And I've had to buy replacement screws. And one time I found my screws in the pocket of my purse. Don't ask me how they got there. I couldn't tell you, but they did. All right, so now that I've got this, mine actually releases, or mine just kind of lifts up, just like that. It just lifts right up and pops off. Now, before we dive into the underside, we're going to look at the back side of this. It's not too bad. Because like I said, I cleaned it not that long ago, but I still want to give it a good wipe down. So my rule is, as soon as I take it off the machine, it gets a wipe down. Okay. That way I know it's been cleaned before I put it back on, because I don't want to take the time to clean all the inside and then just put this dirty thing back on. So take the time to wipe it down. I, by the way, have nothing on this microfiber towel, nothing, no solution, no liquids, but you can see a little bit there just how gross, even though I cleaned it not that long ago, how gross it can get so quickly. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. I don't know if you can tell. Let me see if I can tilt it down a little more. And I hope this doesn't jiggle too much. You can kind of see. Do you see all these fuzzies? You see all of that? That's a lot. That's a lot. And like I said, I haven't sewn that much. I'm actually going to switch cameras real quick, and I'm going to see if I can't get you a little bit better view without making you dizzy. Because I want you to be able to like look down in like I am. Oof. Oof. I'm going to turn this. This is what I love about these flex lights is it really does give the best light. And you can like reposition these so many different ways. All right, let me see what the camera angle is here because I want you guys to be able to see really, really well. Okay, that's a better angle, but I'm going to have to move my flex light. Ooh, she dirty. Okay. Let's go this way and tilt it down. I'm going to turn it upside down. I love that there's just so many ways I can move this flex light and it's just going to like help me out, but I don't want it to be in your way. You know what? Just going to sit it, see if it'll sit right there. It's probably going to fall off, but we're going to give it a go. There is so much buildup in here, and I'm just gonna, this is a little embarrassing, but I'm telling you, I'm glad I'm showing you this because this is how easily this gets funky, okay? I will say I enjoy cleaning my machines because this is so satisfying to do. You see all of this little funky? It's funky. So we're going to pick out some dust bunnies today. The other thing I like to do is take out this little device here, this little disc. This is your bobbin casing. So this needs to come out as well because look at what's underneath there. And when I say I just cleaned it out, I just cleaned this out not that long ago, like a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So just imagine all of this is built up in here. And this is just fuzzies from fabric, from threads, from all that vibration. It's just lint. And it builds up very quickly. It's like when you do a load of towels. Look at that. You do a load of towels and you get all that lint every single time. You're like, how much more lint can possibly come off towels that I've washed 10,000 times? And it still does. It's the same concept in a sense. And there's a lot that will build up very quickly and you just have to clean it out. You have to clean it out so that your machine has the best mobility to give you the best stitches and the best work. So I just like to come in with some tweezers. I recommend, whoop, my flex light died. Let's see if I have another one handy. I do over here. Let's see if this one works. This is why I have multiple. If you do not have multiple flex lights, you are missing out. Because, oh yeah, so much brighter too. It was on its last leg. I have multiple flex lights because mine do die, and then I forget to put them on the charger and stuff. So I have like 3 or 4 floating around here. But anyways, I was going to say you need to make sure you have a good pair of tweezers. And I really like these. These actually came with one of my sergers because they have like that bend at the end and they're just really easy to use. And I like to go in and just kind of get some of the bigger pieces. Okay. And do that before I go in with a brush and all of that, because the lint wants to stick to the brush. And so it's a little harder to pick off. But getting some of the big pieces up front with the tweezers really helps. I don't know if you can see, but look at that dust bunny. That's a big dust bunny. There's even some in here and on the back of this. So what I'm going to do is show you one of my favorite, not necessary, but favorite tools to use when cleaning my machines, and that is a little vacuum, this little mini vacuum. Now mine is actually kind of full. I'm going to dump it out real quick. I should have done that before we started, but just so you can see, it just comes apart and there's a little filter right here, and you just lift that out and you just dump that. And I use these all the time. There we go. So now it's empty. I can put my little filter back in and just reattach this. And these are rechargeable. I couldn't tell you the last time I charged it, so we'll see how long it lasts. But again, I'm like the worst at putting things on the charger. But I use this in conjunction with a brush because the lint likes to stick to this, but we want to get stuff out. Now I'm going to pause right here and say, the reason I recommend a mini vacuum is because it is helping remove stuff out, even some of those little fine pieces out of the machine. Do not, if you hear nothing else I say today, nothing else, please hear this. Do not use compressed canned air ever, especially on your sewing machine, but you should really never use it. It's really bad for your lungs to inhale. It is not just straight air. So I do not recommend using it, not even to clean a keyboard. Definitely not to use for your sewing machine. Now, I'll play devil's advocate here. Yes, when you blow canned air in this space on your machine, you're going to see stuff fly out. Probably all these big little dust bunnies that I got off the surface. What you're not going to see is all the dust bunnies that were just below the surface that didn't come flying out, but instead got pushed further into your machine. Now you can't reach them and they're getting into your motor area. And now that's a problem. And it creates a huge problem. So especially over time. So my rule, no can compress air. It's not good for your health and it's not good for your machine. And we're going to use a vacuum. Now, if you don't want to get a little vacuum, that's fine. You're going to use the brush just like I'm going to, but then you're going to wipe it off on a towel or paper towel or something to get the dust bunnies off as we, get down in there. We're going to use this to get down in there. Now, this one didn't come with my machine. I've got these super cheap off Amazon. It's a brush on one side and it's like a spoolie on the other side, but it's kind of rough, but it will like get down in there. You can tell I've used this one kind of a bit. It's kind of gross. But the vacuum's really satisfying. It helps get those pieces off. So you're going to see me use this, and hopefully the microphone doesn't pick it up too much, but it may be just a little loud. Before I use the vacuum, though, we are going to, since we removed something else from the machine, we need to do what? We need to wipe it down. So see all the grime and dust all over my bobbin casing? I'm going to wipe all that down. I want to keep it nice and clean. Now, if you've never removed your bobbin casing before out of your machine, before you do, you might want to take a photo of it in your machine so you know which way it goes. Because I've seen people try to put them in backwards and go, well, my machine's not working now. I must have broke it. And it's like, no, it's just your bobbin casing isn't in the right spot. And it has to be in the right spot. And every machine's just a little different. So just know that that is important. All right, I'm going to use my little vacuum here. All right, I got the big dust bunny up and out of the way, but I just kind of did like a little once over, and I don't know if you could see it, but there was a pink thread that just came out of nowhere and it sucked it right up, which I love. I love that. All right, so I've got my little brush here, and this is where I'm just gonna kind of take my time, and sorry if the camera's jiggling, and just get down in here and just kind of loosen and see, I've just gone over it once. And this is where it comes in handy. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but between my feed dogs is lint and buildup. So sometimes you can use something like a stiletto or something like a pen or something and kind of get in there and get that loose if you need to. And then it will come out in like one perfect little piece, which is really satisfying. Here's another one. So getting in there and getting between these little pieces really makes a big difference because now my feed dogs are gonna not be jammed, which is really important. Oh, here's a whole nother piece. I thought this was a part of the machine, but nope, that is just a big piece of fuzz. Um, Goodness, I swear I cleaned it out recently. So here's some more little lint babies. And I'm just gonna keep working on this. So you'll see me kind of switch between the brush and then really getting down in there with this side. They also make really tiny brushes and other size brushes like this if you really need to get like really intricate, like down into these little screw holes, things like that. This can come in really handy too. And again, those are easily found like on Amazon. Okay. Do you see the difference that this has made so far? I feel like I see one tiny little fuzzy bunny right there. Just the tiniest little guy. Yeah, there we go. And, you know, it's not like the deepest clean. That's why we get our machines serviced, but it is way better than it was. And so now that this is done, I can go, okay, I'm happy with this. I feel like this is looking really nice. I could come in with my microfiber and just kind of wipe down some of these top surfaces if I want to. You know, it's optional. Kind of do a little once over in there. Oops, sorry, I'm jiggling the camera here. But yeah, it looks so much better than it did. So now we're just gonna pop this bobbin casing back in. See if I can remember which way mine goes. I even get turned around because all of my machines are a little different. There we go. So now it's in there and I can find my needle plate that I've already cleaned. So this is why I recommend wiping everything down as soon as you take it off, because as soon as you're done cleaning it, you're ready to like put everything back on. So I'm just going to slide this back into place just like that. And I have my handy dandy screws right here on my little magnetic needle catcher. All right, so I kind of put them in loosely and then I'll go back with my screwdriver and tighten them up. I don't tighten them so much that I can't get it off again. I done that before and then it's really hard to get it off. All right. Now I can put my bobbin in. There we go. And then I can reattach my foot. Now, the last thing I like to do, and this is just personal preference, but take a quick minute to wipe down your machine. You know, maybe even disinfect it a little bit if you need to. Nothing too wet, but just a little bit of disinfectant. Wiping down your machine, especially like up here in this top area, it gets very dusty and linty. So wiping it down, keeping it clean. Like there's a lot over here on this other side. So I'm going to get that down in here where my thread sits can get really dusty from all the thread. And I just like to give it a good wipe down. So she's always looking and feeling her best, and we're taking really good care of her because we love her. We love her. And so just make sure you're taking really good care of your machines. This is simple little tricks. Tweezers, a brush and spoolie really are the two things you really need. A good rag or something, microfiber is recommended. A good light like the flex light came in handy because remember our machine is off while we're cleaning it. We're not turning it on while we're cleaning it. And now that I'm done with all of this, this is when I would add a new needle before I start sewing and rethread my machine. You can also use some other kind of tools. If you're better with these kind of pincher tools, don't ask, I always forget the name of these, but these little kind of hemostat, they're like hemostats, but they're called threadostats, I believe. I like tweezers better because I haven't really gotten used to using these, but there have been times where I've gone in with both. Okay. I'll link the little vacuum I like to use and some of these little brushes and stuff in the comments if you are looking for just a quick grab to have the right tools to clean your machine. But I hope you guys found this really helpful. If anything, just encouraging you to just take a minute to clean your machine. You probably already know how. Maybe you learned a couple little tips from me today. But I just hope that I encouraged you to do this. We are going to sew up this beautiful table runner starting next week in our sew along. It starts on the 15th and it's a 3-part series, maybe 4. We'll see how it goes. I've got a 4th spot blocked in case we need it because I want to take our time with this. I want us to walk through all the steps together, and I want you to be set up for success. And a big part of that is making sure your machine is ready for this project. It's not a small project. It's a good sized table runner. And we're going to be using a lot of quilting cotton, which has got a lot of fibers that will fly off of it. And we'll definitely need to clean our machines again after this project. So go ahead and take the minute to do this. It really just takes a couple minutes. And then put in a new needle and get ready to sew with me next week. Until then, I appreciate all of you. I'll put a link to the table runner in the description of the video. If you decide you want to join us, you can. Like I said, it's all recorded on our YouTube channel, so you can come back and watch it later, even if you get your kit a little later. We just hope that you have a great weekend, and I will see you next time for our sew along next week. And you better have very clean machines, because I will. Mine is going to be sparkling clean, and I'll see you there.